That afternoon, clouds gathered in soft layers, and the last sunlight spilled across the sky like diluted honey. In the northern hills, where rows of pine trees stood like silent guardians of something ancient, there was a narrow dirt path curving gently through a valley. Few people ever walked into this place. But today, someone did. Someone who walked and breathed and tried to reclaim a part of himself. That someone was Aiden. Aiden wasn't running away from anyone. He was simply trying to escape the heaviness that had been pressing on his chest for months. A kind of fatigue he couldn't quite name. Not sadness, not loneliness. Something like a thin layer of dust settling over his heart, and he didn't know how to brush it off. He left the city before sunrise, driving aimlessly toward whichever green patch appeared on the map. No plan, no destination, just one question floating in his mind. Where did I go wrong? When he stepped onto the path between the misty hills, a gentle breeze carried the scent of pine into his lungs. He felt himself lighten just a little. The mountains always had a unique way of placing a quiet hand on the shoulders of lost people and saying, "Slow down, don't rush." Aiden walked slowly, nudging dry leaves with his shoes, listening to the soft crunch like someone tidying up a messy corner inside his mind. With each step, he felt as though he was putting down a burden he had carried for far too long. The path led to a small clearing where an old pine tree stood with wide branches forming a natural canopy. Beneath it was a faded wooden bench, worn by time. No one knew who placed it there. No one knew how many people had sat on it. But Aiden knew one thing. The bench was waiting for him. He sat. Silence. No traffic, no notifications. No one calling him. Only the sound of wind brushing against itself, tree branches touching lightly as if the whole forest was whispering something. Aiden leaned back and closed his eyes. Memories rushed in like waves. Work pressure, effort that went unnoticed. People who promised to stay but chose to leave. Choices that exhausted him, but he never allowed himself to stop. He wondered, at which point had he forgotten how to breathe? A soft rustling broke his thoughts, the sound of footsteps on dry leaves. Aiden opened his eyes. In front of him stood an elderly man, small in build, leaning on a bamboo cane. He didn't look surprised to see Aiden there, as if he had expected this meeting. The man smiled gently and sat on a stone seat across from him. "You don't look very well." The simple sentence carried no judgment, just the kind of truth older people could see with a single glance. Aiden exhaled. "Lately, I feel like I've been dropping pieces of myself." The old man nodded slowly, as though he had heard this confession from many souls throughout his life. There are stretches of the journey where you need to stop. If you don't, your feet will keep going, but your heart won't. Aiden looked down at his hands. "I'm afraid if I stop, I'll fall behind." The man gazed toward the pine forest, eyes drifting far away. "Do you see those trees? They've stood still their entire lives. Yet none of them worry about being left behind." He paused before continuing. "Not every stillness is failure. Sometimes it's how roots grow deeper." A gentle silence, soft as morning mist, settled between them. Aiden felt his throat tighten. He couldn't remember the last time someone spoke to him this way, without pressure, without expectations, without demanding he be strong right this second. "But I feel weaker," Aiden murmured. The old man chuckled lightly. "People carry their armor every single day. Of course it's tiring. Take it off. There are no enemies here." Aiden looked down at his chest, imagining an armor made of pressure, expectations, responsibilities, and in his mind, he slowly removed it. As he pictured it falling to the ground, he heard his own breath clearly for the first time in days. The man asked, "Do you know why people call this path the way between Misty Hills?" Aiden shook his head. "Because in the early mornings, the mist is so thick you can't see the road. But everyone who has walked through knows this. No matter how dense the fog is, if you take a few more steps, the light will appear. Not because the mist disappears, but because you've moved close enough to see the sun." Aiden listened, feeling a part of his chest open